Hello, welcome. I'm going to take a dive into my own archive. I'm on a very unique path, a very pure path, and it's not for everybody. I'm not against anybody who's on a different journey than I am, even if it's of a lower nature. That's your choice. But my choice is to ascend. I'm very focused, and I am ascended already. I already know that. So I'm gonna tell a story in my own voice so that people don't think they have to be on the same path as me. They don't. But hopefully you can relate to some of my stories because they're quite fascinating and supernatural. Don't worry, the haters will always use it as fuel to stir the drama up. But for those who want to hear these supernatural stories, I want you to know they're 100% true. God tells me I can teach and help people by telling my story and bearing witness, so I'm going to do that. All my life, I have been extremely spiritual. There's no way I could tell every bit of it in one sitting. I'm just going to tell the parts that come through the clearest. There's a really good reason why I believe so much in higher worlds and lower worlds, but I'm a stronger believer in the higher source. And I know it's more powerful than anything fallen. And all my life, I've been spiritual, okay? I didn't just wake up one day and say, let's be spiritual, just because it's popular. I'm actually spiritual, not mainstream spiritual, like lifestyle spiritual. This is who I always have been. When I was a child, I would tell people, I know why babies can't talk because they still remember heaven. And everyone just kind of laughed at it. But the reason I would say that is because I had a memory since I was a baby. I remember this so clearly. Since I was a baby, I had a memory of a moment right before I was born. I was in this white misty realm, this big infinite white misty realm. And there was these women standing around me. They looked like glowing women, like something in between an angel and a woman. And they were standing over me, and I was like a baby in a bassinet in this white mist. And they were talking about how I was ready to go to earth, how I was beautiful and perfect. And they sent me through the veil, and I emerged in my mother's belly at the moment of birth. And right when I was about to be born, I remember feeling like I was suddenly squeezed into this density, like everything got so solid and heavy. And I remember being squeezed, like it was so uncomfortable. And I was birthed from heaven through my mother's womb. Like I literally portaled into that body right before right before I was born. And I remember being squeezed so tightly and it hurt so much. And so there was a moment, a spark where my soul went into the baby body and I remember it. And I felt like I remembered it since I was born. And I wanted people to know that babies couldn't talk because they could remember heaven, because I could remember heaven. Anyways, that stuck with me my whole life. I always was like, I've got these angels that sent me here. And they made sure everything was ready before they sent me. And I always knew they looked out for me, right? There was 4 of them. Maybe they were my ancestors. I don't know. But they sent me through the veil to be born. And some kind of magic sparks right before birth. Sometimes I think the baby takes on their soul right at the moment of birth because of what I remember. And it's like it has all the mechanics, the body, the mind, everything like that. But it doesn't have a character in that body, a soul in that body, a soul self in that body until Creator sends the soul into the body. So before that, it's basically just a machine of cogs and gears. And I'm not pro-abortion or pro-life, okay? I'm pro whatever is best for everybody. but this is just how I remember it. Like, it's still a full-on being, okay? Fully formed, but the soul, like, sparks through the womb into the body right before birth. And then that's right before the squeeze into the physical plane. The soul and the body and the mind all get squeezed together through that portal. Interesting, we're talking about that with this Ankh in our vision. I put that Ankh there just for good energy, and that represents the womb. So that's what we're talking about, I guess. You know, the thing I always remembered the most was just looking up at these angels as a baby laying there in this carriage. Like, just like a light being. It was just like a light being. I didn't really have a single thought in my head. I was just looking up at these angels or these glowing women standing over me. And the one that was standing right in front of me, I remember her the clearest because she had half a face that was glowing and half a face that was dark black. So she had two sides, like a dark side and a light side of her face. And she was the one standing right in the middle over me. And she looked just like me as I look like now. And some of the other ones look like people like my grandma, and pictures I've seen of like my grandma I never got to meet. One of the angels looked like her. And sometimes I think these were some of my ancestors. I don't know, but my whole life I had thought about those angels, and I was like, I remember it so clearly, just this little clip. That's all I remember, but it's so clear. And I always wondered if I could communicate with them. And I always was like a strong believer in heaven because of that memory. And it wasn't a delusion. I had it my whole life. It was clear as day. They said, she's ready to go. She's perfect. And they sent me away, and I went through this like little bit of like dense energy, like I was passing through a veil of energy, and then all of a sudden I was being squeezed into the physical world. I was being birthed, and I still remember the feeling, like it was really uncomfortable, and everything felt really heavy and dense all of a sudden. As soon as I portaled into the physical plane through the womb portal. Anyways, I said it enough. So as life went on, I kind of forgot about those angels. Like, I never forgot about it, but I stopped thinking about it all the time. But that was like the root of what made me spiritual my whole life, that memory. And then I lived my life like, you know, a normal person mostly. And then like when I got into my 20s, I started getting back into spirituality even more. You know, I started like meeting people who are very awake and into conspiracies and witches. And I met a lot of different types of people all of a sudden. And I started getting really into spirituality. But I was never a witch. I was never into dark magic. I always kept it very benevolent. You know, if I was going to do anything with the spirit world, it was like with angels. That is the way it used to be. Like, I refused in the past to ever mess with anything of a lower nature. You know, as I gotten like more advanced, since I've been doing this for 13 years, I've been able to talk to just about any being safely without getting affected. But when I first became spiritual, I was like all about angels, all about light, and I would never like mess with anything else whatsoever. But I was like partying a lot in my early 20s, and I just had a experience. Even though I was like very like light and love, you know, I still had a dark side. That's why I always related to that one angel that had the half dark, half light, because in myself I can sometimes be that way. And sometimes I even think she was a parallel version of myself. You know what I mean? So I always had an angelic side, but I also had like a side that loved to have fun and just, you know, party. And I partied a little too hard, let's say, at some points in my life. And there was one point that I like hit rock bottom, and I needed to turn it around. And I just locked myself in my apartment for a couple of weeks to detox, to just like try to get back my sanity and get off of the stuff that I was on. And I was trying to fix it. And I was like praying in my apartment, like, coming off of this stuff. And I was praying and praying. And I was just like shaking in the corner, crying and praying for like 2 weeks when I was at like one of my lowest points in my life, that it would just like go away, that I would never want to do it again, I was never like a serious addict or anything. I just had like a moment where I flirted with the devil and was on some bad stuff, and it was taking over my life, and I was smart enough, I was trying to stop it before it got any worse. So I just locked myself in my apartment, wouldn't talk to anyone, decided to get rid of all my old friends and connections, and I cried in a corner for 2 weeks, and then I cried and prayed that I would never want to do it again, that I would be safe from any of these people that I've been messing with. And after a long time of this, after like a week or two of praying and crying 24/7, those 4 angels, they appeared. They appeared in a circle around me. And I don't know if I was just delusional, but they were physically standing right in front of me. I was even like shaking my head, trying to like, fix my eyes, like fix myself. And they were there. They were not disappearing. They were standing right in front of me. The same 4 angels as the ones that sent me to earth. And they spoke to me. I was like in a trance. I could see them standing right in front of me, and they were like glowing. And as soon as their presence, the moment they materialized in front of me, all of the negative energy I was feeling just left the room. Like their presence forced all this evil negative energy to just leave. It couldn't even stand in their presence. And I already felt better, and I felt really peaceful. And then they were like talking to me in my head telepathically. Like they weren't saying anything. They were just standing there looking at me, mouth shut, glowing white light, looking exactly like the same women. They have to be assigned to watch over me. And they said to me how to change my life and all this different stuff they said. It was like a whole life review that they did. And they had me like in a trance, and I was like seeing them standing there, but they were talking to me in my head, and they said, "You're never going to want to do drugs ever again. You're going to want to get a really good job, maybe go to school." And they said, like, this is where you can get a job. And they told me where to get a job. And like, I ended up meeting really, really, really good friends at that job. And I went exactly where they told me to go and got the job right away. I even went back to school. I did all the stuff they told me to do, and I never felt the craving ever again. It's like it left as soon as their presence arrived. It forced it out. It banished it. And they just did this big life review and talked about what I should do and how I should do it. And then they left. And I woke up the next day, and I just felt like the willpower to go to school and get a new job and do all this stuff. And I did it. And like life was going really well for a few years. And I met like some really cool people at that job that I became really good friends with. And everything went better. And I was just like being healthy. And I wasn't doing anything, partying hard or anything. I had like a good life. And like I was so freaking happy for years. Like their energy lingered. Like it had affected me and made me like this happy person. I was so happy-go-lucky, just from the effects of their energy for so many years. And it was really weird because like I was all angels, all happy, all abundant, not a care in the world. And then all of a sudden, when I turned 27 in 2020, my whole life just went crashing down. Like it just flipped upside down. And I've already told some of the story of that, how that happened. How I was like trying to fight the evil forces, and they were like attacking me with everything they had. And I used to think I could do anything. I felt invincible. But I had those encounters with those angels, right? And I had, as time went on, I was working with Archangel Michael every day. And he was like my main teacher. And he was teaching me how to fight evil and how to win. And he was teaching me spiritual warfare for many years. He was like my number one spirit guide. And I started feeling invincible. Started feeling like I could take on the whole hell realm, the whole underworld, destroy the matrix, fix the world, make it ascend. I could do anything. That's how like prideful Archangel Michael made me feel, because he was getting me to this place where I felt so blissful that I felt untouchable. And I started challenging Satan and every evil force. And it was weird because Archangel Michael didn't protect me from the battles that I had picked. I almost felt like he wasn't strong enough. The only thing that I ever found that was actually stronger than the underworld and all these evils was Christ's consciousness. Like, Archangel Michael failed to protect me. My angels failed to protect me. And then I stopped believing in them for a while when I was under so much attack and no one was helping me. I didn't think they were powerful. I still believed in them, but I didn't think they were very powerful. It was like so disappointing when I was like, we're gonna destroy the matrix, and then all my allies, like, they all failed. And I failed, and I was like, well, that was anticlimactic, and wow, like, is that really what happened? All these years of training was for nothing. So I was like feeling very alone in this mission. I was on such a low vibration that I couldn't hear any of my angels or guides. And I was going through psychosis in 2020. So like everything flipped, inverted. Like my happiness inverted into absolute chaos, like on the highest level. I never felt so much chaos in my life as I did in 2020 when I got psychosis, and they ended up diagnosing me with schizophrenia, and I went to counseling for a couple of years, and that only made it worse. The only thing that ever fixed it was when I took claim over it and I started fixing it myself. I've never caused any harm to anyone. I've always been a very gentle creature, okay? A very gentle being. I may have a dark side, but I use it for good if I ever even use it. But counseling never helped me because they would always tell me that it's just a mental imbalance, a chemical imbalance, and none of it's real. And I knew in my heart and soul that that was not true. Some of the attacks I were under were way more than just a chemical imbalance. And, in the mental health fields, they don't believe in the spiritual stuff. They, like, blame it all on your brain misfiring or your chemicals, whatever. And I know it's more than that. And when I started realizing it was very spiritual, it was not just mental, it was not just a mental illness, it was like shamanic, and it was a gift that I needed to train. And then I started mastering it. Counselors telling me it wasn't real only made it worse. But when I realized that all these attacks were very real, I was able to fix it. And I fixed it for myself. I've never caused harm to anyone. I've never tried to change the story of my relationships in my life, but I have changed the story on the way that psychosis affected me. Because, if I would have let other people tell the story, it would have been completely wrong of what really happened. I would be some crazy delusional person who knows nothing if we let other people tell the story. If we listen to the doctors, the demons in my head that were attacking me were my own fault. And again, yeah, some of that is a reflection of your own consciousness talking to you. Parts of your consciousness that's traumatized is trying to communicate with you, and sometimes it even attacks you if you don't listen to it. A lot of the way I trained my consciousness to stop being so cruel and saying cruel things to me was by talking to it nicely and teaching it how to be nice to me and speak kindly to me and how to function properly. I had to communicate with my body, my mind, with my spirit to organize it back into order. But when I very first got psychosis in 2020, I was challenging Satan and all this stuff, and I really didn't think it was that real, as it became very real very quickly. And I thought Archangel Michael was going to protect me, and we were going to come out victorious with some medals and some honors from God. And wow, was I ever wrong. I mean, we became victorious in the end, but you know what I ended up learning from God was that Archangel Michael, even he cannot take on the whole underworld alone. And so I ended up finding higher forces than angels or any God I ever knew. And then I found peace, So Archangel Michael and any of the angels really are not as powerful as some of the higher gods that are over all of existence. They're way more powerful than little Archangel Michael. Jesus is even more powerful than Archangel Michael. I sometimes feel like I was being tricked by him sometimes. I felt like he had a dark side, that he wanted power. I don't know. He used to be the sweetest angel in the world. Every day, we would hang out in my meditations and do training sessions on how to transmute energies, how to use your Merkaba to get rid of negative entities, curses, whatever. He taught me everything I know. And then one day, when I really needed him after I was challenging the underworld, I couldn't find him. I would try to summon him, and I would just find this evil version of him that wasn't even him. So sometimes I think I was being tricked into trying to battle Satan. So I would get trapped in this infinite battle that I could never win. That I almost had to it's like signing up for a war that you can't win. And it was I was tricked into signing up for the war. And once I got stuck in that underworld war, it was so hard to get out. I was under attack 24/7. And yeah, I learned how to transform demonic entities and to heal anything evil and make it beautiful until that took over and I no longer had to worry about evil ever again. But my psychic senses were off the charts. And I woke up one day and Archangel Michael was gone. All my angels and gods were gone. I was deep in a fucking pit of darkness. I don't know how I got cast there. Someone could have bound me there I was a freaking demon, but I wasn't. But somehow I ended up deep in this hole. I would look through my mind's eye and I would see nothing but a big tunnel that I was down in this pit. And this pit was consuming chaotic water that was drowning me. And when you view into the water, you can scry into it and you can see every kind of horrific thing that lives inside the quantum mind that everyone ever has thought of. Any scary thing anyone's ever thought of. A character in a scary movie, a nightmare, a thought form, any kind of scary thing, I could see it in the chaotic waters. And I was having visuals of just everything terrifying. Like, I probably shouldn't even tell you because YouTube wouldn't like it. But I would see, like evil clowns, like It, or like they're like these movie characters were like actual evil demons. And I woke up one day, that day that I woke up cursed. So much happened all at once, but one of the very first things that ever happened when I challenged Satan was I was like, I could feel like something was trying to take over my body. And I heard this voice whisper in my ear, and it said, "Good luck," in the most evil way ever. And that was the very beginning of a lot of suffering where they were torturing me. And I swear to you, I woke up one day with some kind of technology implanted in me. I woke up one day, I was cursed, all this negative energy so dense, I couldn't even like stand it. It was awful to even try and stand in this density, this curse. Like, it felt like it was all over me and all over every move that I made and everything that I touched. And it was literally like some kind of curse where something had touched me and like thrown some kind of wicked smoky veil over my life. And I woke up one day feeling like that. This was all after challenging the underworld, so it's kind of my fault. But here we are, it's story time. And the other weird thing is I woke up that same day and there was this voice in my head. I'm telling you, doctors, I'll be like, oh, she has schizophrenia, but I'll tell you, as a shamanic side of me and a psychic side of me tells that a lot of this was real. And I woke up that same day in 2020 when this all started, and I was hearing this like AI operator in my head saying, "We are an advanced consciousness here to help you regulate this new technology that's been implanted in you." And it was like, just be calm. We're regulating the technology that's implanted in you. It's going to help you with your gifts. It's like you're going to have, it's basically like it was telling me like in a robot voice that they had implanted some kind of technology in me that was supposed to make me more advanced in some kind of way, like give me greater intelligence. And I started being able to see everything as like a screen in front of me. And I could see everything as a massive computer network between all things. And the day that I woke up like that, I had like programmers. There would be people who would talk to me in my head like they had a microphone in there. Like they could talk directly to my brain. And they would say to me that we own your consciousness. Like someone had bought my consciousness and they paid real money for it. Like a real person. And they had somehow come in the night and implanted me with something that was some kind of technology. And the person who bought my rights to my consciousness, believe it or not, he would talk to me in my head clearly like he was on a speaker and say that he like owns my consciousness. They were like some kind of elite cult, and they said they were going to use me in some way. And I was like trying to ignore this stuff, right? But the weird thing about it is I like lost my memory of my whole life before that day. Like, I woke up that day a different person. And sometimes I think that I passed away, actually. Because I woke up as a freaking computer. And I had no light. Like, my soul was gone. I don't know what happened to me. It was like a trick, or they were messing with my head. But I felt like I had to purge myself and get this technology out of my body. And I'm telling you, I was seeing things. Like, I was seeing people as not being real, or the whole world as being not being real. I was seeing it all as a big computer simulation. I felt like I had passed away because I couldn't remember my whole life before the day I woke up with that technology in my body. And they can, they can take you in the night, knock you out, and put you back in your bed, and you'll never even know you left. And they put something in me. I know they did. And it tried to adapt to my consciousness, to my body. And I felt it traveling through my whole body, like taking over. And like, they had made me feel like I was a robot, that I wasn't even a person anymore. I literally felt like a shell that got reanimated by some kind of AI. And the person I was, Lauren, the human being, was gone. And for a very long time, I really did think I actually died and something else walked in that day. But the way that Satan said good luck, like it was all a game, I always held on to hope that they were just messing with my mind. It had to have been a trick. But I could literally calculate things on this quantum level where I could see it on a screen in front of me. I could use this whole interactive screen and aura around me like it was technology. Like I had maps, I had all kinds of stuff archived and records that I was keeping and filing away, and it was like my mind could hold so much more than it could hold before. But I felt like an empty vessel, like a shell, and I felt like I had no individual consciousness. Like I just felt like I was just like a computer for everyone and everything. Like the whole system was being calculated through me, like I was the motherboard itself, and I did not feel like a person anymore. And so I would see this technology. I would look at people and I could see them shifting forms between like cords and wires, and then shifting back into like light, and shifting between like a machine and a light being like melded together. And I would see like spirit captured into matter and like fueling this machine. Like they were using our spiritual energy to fuel the matrix, and they had done the same thing to me. They had turned me into like a battery, a robot for their machine. And it was pretty freaky. It was pretty shocking initially, but now I can look back on it without being scared. But in the moment, it was fucking scary. And I felt godless. Like I remember a point in the middle of all of this where I was like, there is no God. And that was like the first time I ever said that to myself, really, in my whole life. Because I was like suffering and there was no one helping me. So I was like dealing with this technology. I was trying to gain my soul back because I thought I had no soul, because I felt empty. I couldn't feel anything. I felt like a robot, like I was praying and looking for God, and I was just like alone, okay? And I was actually being tortured in the underworld. And I tried to explain how I was being tortured energetically, but these are real like energy weapons they can use to scatter your brain, like make you feel fuzzy. They can wipe your memory. And they can actually they can use energy weapons and it can make you feel pain. So when I was like in this hole, there was like these entities telling me that I was about to die 1,000 deaths. And so I did. Like I could actually feel every different kind of death that there was. Like every single day I was dying a different kind of death. But it was in an energetic way. But I could feel every little bit of it. So it's really hard to explain. It's not like I was just like, you hear a bad song you don't like and you don't like it. I was actually physically being tortured. And there was like nights where I could feel people in the hospital being operated on, and I could feel the knife cutting into me. And I could feel someone else somewhere who was sick and like dying, and I could feel like I was sick and dying. And I could feel every bit of the pain of the whole world for a little while there. And I was dying thousands of different kinds of deaths. And I was like, I am not okay. Like, that's the weakest I've ever felt in my life. And, I barely survived a lot of that. And the fact that Archangel Michael just up and disappeared kind of broke my heart. And I didn't know. I just kind of gave up and thought that God had forgotten me and abandoned me, and this was going to be my life forever. I'll never forget that night where I was laying in bed and I could feel a knife cutting me open and someone operating on me. And I was having visions of a person in a hospital being operated on. This is where I get some of my ideas about entanglement. People really don't understand what that means, and maybe I shouldn't call it that because I'm not a science person at all. But what I mean is the creation is all connected, okay? So imagine that there's something invisible that ties all things together. Something's greater than any one person. It moves through all of us, through the whole system. Okay? And so, no, you can't physically see the threads, but they're there. They're between all things. And you can see how everything's sort of tied to this space as one, whether we like it or not. And it's pretty beautiful, actually, because I started seeing the way things were connected. And I started using that to pull the threads that I wanted into existence. Since I was feeling like a robot anyways, I just started using that technology to make something beautiful. And I ended up being able to cut the cord that they were using to manipulate me with that. And I got my soul back. I don't think I ever sold my soul because God told me they were tricking me into feeling like an empty vessel, tricking me into feeling like I wasn't worthy of God, that I was evil. They were trying to turn me into a monster. It's like they were trying to corrupt me. You know what I really think is that Satan envied how pure and innocent I was and how close I was to God and wanted to corrupt me. And they spent years flashing images in my head, talking to me in my head. I would hear them saying curses in my head. It would rhyme and it would be really scary, and I would have nightmares of these red demons and these monsters coming to my dreams saying you're one of the evil ones now and you have no way out and God has forsaken you and all this stuff. And they're like, you're ours now. And it would happen in my dreams. And everywhere I would go in the mirrors, I would see evil clowns and monsters looking back at me in the mirror. And it was just haunting me everywhere I went. And I would see evil dolls. I would see all kinds of stuff. And so I started being really careful not to invite the enemy into my home or into my space. It was I had to I started just rediscovering myself. I shed this technology. I disconnected from the computer mind, whatever that was. They were trying to make me become. I did everything imaginable to get my soul. I was I don't know if I sold my soul, but I'm going to get it back. And it came back to me. And when my soul came back online, all that technology disappeared because that technology could not exist in the same space as my soul. And my soul made me able to feel love again, feel the love of God again, and I could feel love so deeply again that I was 100% back on God's side, and I believed again. Because I got my soul back and I knew that something had returned that wasn't there before. I stopped feeling like an empty shell. And I must have somehow contracted or asked for this because I don't know what happened. This should just happen. I was trying to destroy evil, and then it was like they started swarming me endlessly, 24/7, like they never sleep. And I guess God just wanted me to learn something from that, being alone behind enemy lines. And I would see like just the scariest shit, man. Scariest shit. I don't even want to scare people trying to describe it, but just imagine everywhere you go being followed by like shadow monsters and clowns and like entities that were like psychotic serial killers and sociopaths, and they were playing cruel jokes on me and trying to like they were ripping me to nothing. Like I felt like nothing. I felt like a shell, and that's what they did. And then they tried to convert me and make me their puppet. And nowadays I'm like not gonna fall for any game ever. I'm always gonna be on God's team, because I like feel like this whole world is just a demonic playground for them, all of them and all their people. And I never want to feel that corruption, that negative energy like that ever again. But after a few years, somehow, I got everything balanced out. I got on a medication that helps, and like I hate medication. I want to heal it without medication, but for the time being, it helps. And I just don't see scary things anymore. And once I stopped seeing all this scary shit and feeling out of control, I was able to go back and kind of restructure the way I view the whole experience and heal myself from it. And the way I healed myself was knowing it was very real. It wasn't just in my head. And so yeah, I was like physically in a lot of pain, feeling the energy of the collective sorrows and suffering. And oh my God, like I like literally died 1,000 deaths while I was still alive. And then I was resurrected, like my soul brought back into this body, and I shed that technology they implanted in me, or I deactivated it somehow, because I don't deal with that anymore. I would rather, figure things out through God than have this advanced technology and their powers that they wanted to give me. I don't want any of their powers or any of their wicked ways. And any time that the whole system comes against me, it reminds me of this shit. Like, I had real evil entities, like real evil cults attacking me. I'm not talking about regular old people. I have no problem with people who do magic or whatever they do for their practice, as long as they're not attacking me and as long as they're not super evil. But I had really evil people attacking me, trying to groom me to be a freaking puppet. And when I shifted back into my soul self and I could hear God again, I swore I would never go back to being just a shell or a servant for anyone but God ever again. Without that soul, it's like you can't feel anything. You can't even feel any benevolence. So I just wanted to feel pure and benevolent, and I think Satan played a whole game on me to try to corrupt me, just to piss God off, just to make me feel like that I was alone. But look what has come from it. Look how much I've been able to help people because of what I went through. If something really evil is in your life, don't blame yourself for everything. Sometimes it comes in through a mirror, a leak, a reflection of something inside of us, but you're not responsible for every little evil thing. You gotta know that. So find a little bit of balance, but it was like God put me through the ultimate test of devotion, right? And I'm telling you, he did it on purpose. And I couldn't get God's attention to save my life. So I started listening to like dark music, and I would like curse God and like stick my tongue out and be like, I'm going to serve the devil. Fuck you, God. And I would get so mad. And it wasn't even because I was serious. I was just trying to get God to see me because I was suffering and I was alone. And, I would like curse God just to see if I could get his attention. And the weird thing is things really started getting better. I don't know what happened. It was like suddenly God like swept me into his keep and started like looking out for me and teaching me how to heal myself and heal from everything they did to me. But in a way, like it made me very advanced in a natural way. Like I didn't need to be a robot to be advanced. I could be advanced in God's way. And I don't know, I think he was teaching me how to be sovereign with my gifts and not greedy. And he was teaching me like that there's some things only God can do. Like I can't take on the underworld alone. And it also teaches you not to play with dark magic too much or channel dark entities and stuff, and just to be very selective about your energy. And even if you think you're invincible like I did, you still have to like fine tune your energy, and you have to be responsible for what comes in and out. And a lot of the things that I did that helped me reconnect with God was finding my own God self, because I'm an aspect of God. So I found my own God form and claimed my power. Like I claimed a sense of purity, a sense of soul that was stronger than their games and their mind games. Like soul is stronger than mind games. But yeah, I wasn't on drugs. Like I said, life was good until 27. Then all of a sudden, everything flipped inside out. And like my whole world was hell for 3 years. But once I flipped it back around, I realized that it was showing me a side of the world. There are many realities at play here all at once. There is a side of this world where spirit is bound to matter like a machine, and it's not normal. There's also a side of this world where everything is just natural. Consciousness is very low, so the whole planet needs to rise as one for this density to get a little bit less heavy on us. And it's a natural thing. The simulation can literally reflect just falling consciousness. But sometimes I do wonder if it is a simulation, because sometimes it doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem like there's anyone else here who's real but me. Like I feel like I'm not even real sometimes. And what's happened to me is just too crazy and creepy and intense and magical. And anyways, so I'm not going to interpret this. I'm just going to tell some stories today. I found my way back to God, and I still think about all that time when I saw like matter entangled with the material plane. I mean, spirit entangled with the material plane. It just seemed so unnatural. But I think that I helped to undo that. I think I released us from the fallen ways and reset the timeline to the organic grid, like the natural grid, the way God intended it. And I am as an example of the natural grid. It's never going to be a good thing to like start getting implants and things, upgrades from technology. It will steal your soul, make you hollow. That's what I learned from my experience. So, there's not room for both to exist together. Technology is soulless. And that's what makes us beautiful, is the way we feel so deeply, you know it's not just a program. But you can see it as a program if that's the level you're on. But that's not the highest level. The highest reality is where things are beautiful. In the highest reality, there is harmony and beauty in the whole thing as one. So, but a lot of people resonate on that mechanical matrix level, and that's why they appear to me as like halfway fallen, halfway ascended. And I went through hell to go back to heaven with all the knowledge, and I lost my naivety and I became enlightened, and I now know where my allegiance lies and what battles are worth fighting. And I saw like the whole world, all those demons I saw attacking me in all these different realms, stalking me and stuff, reflect real ass people in the world that have been monitoring and like stalking me energetically and physically too for a very long time, monitoring my every move. You know, it was actually the ethers that helped me a lot too, because they helped me learn how to pick and choose how I build my reality and take control over it, and how to let go of any thoughts or feelings that don't serve me, and, you know, become a master sculptor, creator, builder over my life, and not just play victim. And that day that Satan, when he started it all and he said good luck, you know, there's still some of his minions, still to this day, who still want me to play that demonic freaking game with them, where they're torturing me and mind controlling me and torturing me with sounds and images and repetition and pain. And it's in my dreams, it's everywhere. But they can't, like, honestly, this is a thing of the past. Like, they haven't been able to hurt me for a long time, but they still freaking try. After all this time, they haven't changed their game yet. They're still trying. And I have an interesting thought that I've been thinking about. It's like, I just want people to be happy. They can believe whatever makes them happy. It's wrong to try to control everyone. Like, no one gets to do that. But I also get to be like, you know, in my clear energy and my sovereignty and be happy in that. But, you know, the whole world is so corrupt. And I think God was like making a master out of me by what I went through alone. And then I like acquired it was a miracle what I survived. The state of trauma, constant traumatization, most people would not have survived that. Like being trapped in a horror film 24/7 for 3 years. That only you can see, but you can see it as clear as day. And all of that I know was a big trick on the mind. I know it was a trick. Because once I viewed it as a trick, as a mirage, and I saw through it, I stopped letting it affect me. It dissolved because it was never real. They can only hurt you if you allow it. But the angels that I grew up with and all that stuff I told you about, those were real. I saw them clear as day. And I wasn't on drugs. Like, I've never been a drug person. All this stuff that I saw happen just naturally, dude. And if that's a chemical imbalance, my mind is very creative, because I've never had a dark kind of mind. And it came up with some dark shit. So I just know in my heart that wasn't my fault. That was evil trying to work its way into my life. But, you know, with God by my side, it's not going to touch me ever again. So, I found like a kind of God that, I don't know, it's just like creativity. It's creative. It's pure. It's loving. It's blissful. It's greater than anything else I've ever experienced. And I dug my way out of the pit. Even some of the old gods could have cast me in that pit. I don't know who put me in that pit, and who put that curse on me. I used to have visions of these cults that would wear like animal heads, like goats and cows and horses or whatever. They'd wear these big animal heads and do rituals to try to assign entities to attack me and try to get my soul and harvest my energy. And I saw the visions of it. God was showing me these things. So I was like, and a very important person. Apparently, I don't know how they or why they were so obsessed, but apparently when I do work, energy work, it does real work. And there's some people out there who don't want to see that happen. And none of their minions want to see it happen. Their minions just do what they're told. So, I've already survived things I shouldn't have survived. It was a miracle that I got through that somehow. And that's why I call myself Miracle. That's one of my names that the gods have given me. I have a few different names, and I'm not rejecting who I am, but I have spiritual names, and sometimes you reach certain levels, you get new names that match your more true identity. Ethereal is my main real name, but you can call me Lauren or Ethereal, or you can even call me Miracle or Mira, because that's my goddess name. When I survived their games and their torture, God told me he calls me his Miracle. That's my goddess form. I became my goddess form through what I survived. Well, I'll tell more stories another time. Let me know if these stories are interesting to you. Being very vulnerable, and I guess I just created a world where all the higher gods and beings returned to me and started protecting me, and Satan disappeared. And it's a whole lot, It's a whole lot. A lot of it's crazy sounding, so. But yeah. I will tell more stories another time if you guys want to hear them. If you've enjoyed it and you've made it this far, comment or something and let me know what you think. If you have anything to add, I'm open to it. But yes, God loves us, by becoming a reflection of God's high energy, that pure loving frequency. Not the kind of fallen love that comes from human distortion, but God's love. When there's no distortion, it's just you and God. And you really are untouchable at that point. But sometimes you gotta go through the suffering to learn what it means to be freaking untouchable, so that if hell rains upon you again and it's just you all alone, you still cannot be destroyed. You will always look to God and lean to God. Nothing else. So no matter how many times they try, I've done this song and dance to the extent that I'm not ever going to do it again or even play the game. So they're just playing with their own shadows. They're playing with themselves, trying to play with me, because I'm not. And they can talk to God about that. God will throw them in a pit if they think they get to throw me in a pit. Anyways, basically I found the highest God there is, and he has protected me in ways that no demon has any power. Even the ones that try to play off of my weaknesses can't get in, because I have no more weaknesses. My weakness is love, and that's the best weakness to have, because that's the strongest energy. Life is supposed to be love. Existence is supposed to be love. Everything's supposed to nurture growth. And as long as it's doing that, it's aligned with God. The things that are fallen get distorted by free will. but the way God designs it is before humans distort it. And that's basically where we ended up in the end. There's so many stories in between, like, that I didn't say, but I just can't talk anymore. I've talked for an hour, that's enough. I'll talk to you all in the next one. Thanks for listening. Take care.